Imagine this. Right now, somewhere beneath Beijing, Moscow, New Delhi, Warsaw, vaults that have never seen daylight are being filled with row upon row of gleaming yellow bricks. 3,000 tons in 3 years, more gold than central banks have ever hoarded in a single burst since the ashes of World War II were still warm. Not retail investors, not hedge fund cowboys, central banks. The same institutions that can print oceans of money are instead quietly, methodically, desperately buying the one thing they cannot print. They know something the rest of the world has been told to forget. They know the dollar's days as the unchallenged king are numbered. And when that throne finally cracks, the greatest wealth transfer in human history will begin. Not in decades, not in years, in months. This is not a prediction. This is a confession, because the people who run the world's money are already positioning themselves on the winning side of what comes next. And tonight, for the first time, you're going to see exactly what they see. The intelligence briefings that never leave classified rooms, the timeline they're racing against, and the cold, calculated mechanism that will let the United States erase $37 trillion of debt in a single stroke. Just like Franklin Roosevelt did in 1933. Only this time, the entire planet is watching. And this time, the ones holding gold will be the new aristocracy. You are not too late, but the window is closing faster than any of us imagined. Let me take you inside the vaults and inside the plan. For 75 years, the world agreed to one simple bargain. America would be the global policeman, and in exchange, every nation would park its wealth in U.S. dollars and U.S. Treasury bonds. It was the greatest privilege ever granted to a single country in recorded history, the power to borrow limitless amounts at almost zero cost because everyone needed dollars to buy oil, to trade, to survive. We called it exorbitant privilege. The rest of the world called it empire. But empires die when the tribute stops flowing. And right now, the tribute is reversing. Between 2022 and the third quarter of 2024, central banks purchased more than 2,800 tons of gold, on pace to cross 3,000 tons before this year ends. That is the fastest, largest, most synchronized accumulation of monetary gold since 1950, when the scars of war still bled and nations were rebuilding under the shadow of the mushroom cloud. Look at the names. Not just China and Russia, the usual suspects. Poland, a NATO member, increased its gold reserves by 57% in 2 years. Turkey added 160 tons while its own currency burned. Singapore, the most sophisticated financial center on Earth, quietly doubled its holdings. Even the Czech Republic and countries most people can't pronounce are stacking bullion like the apocalypse has already been scheduled.
These are not gamblers chasing a price chart. These are the custodians of nations. They employ armies of PhDs who have modeled every currency collapse from Weimar to Caracas. They see capital flow data in real time that would make your head spin. They read intelligence intercepts you and I will never be cleared for. And every single one of them is doing the exact same thing at the exact same moment. That only happens when the smartest players in the room all read the same classified report and reach the same terrifying conclusion. The dollar is going to be dethroned. Not by war, not by revolution, but by the oldest trick in the monetary playbook, a coordinated global flight to gold, followed by a forced revaluation that will wipe away America's mountain of debt at the stroke of a pen. Just like 1933, only this time the numbers are measured in tens of trillions instead of mere billions. And the losers won't just be hedge funds or pensioners. The losers will be anyone still holding dollars when the music stops. In 1933, Franklin Roosevelt signed Executive Order 6102. He forced citizens to hand over their coins and bars at the official price of $20.67 an ounce. Then, 9 months later, he raised the official price to $35. Overnight, the United States government created billions of new money out of thin air and inflated away a massive chunk of its Depression-era debt. The citizens who obeyed lost 40% of their wealth the moment the new price was announced. They never got their gold back at the old price. They were legally barred from owning it again until 1975. That was the template, and every central bank on Earth has studied it. Now, look at the balance sheet today. America's official gold, 261.5 million ounces, is still carried on the books at the absurd statutory price of $42.22 per ounce. At today's market price of roughly $2,700, that hoard is worth about $705 billion. But on the government's own ledger, it's valued at just $11 billion. Do the math. There is a $694 billion revaluation gap sitting right there waiting to be unlocked the moment the Treasury changes one line in an accounting rule. And when that day comes, when gold is remarked from $42 to $20,000 or higher, the same 261 million ounces suddenly become worth $5 trillion or more. Enough to claim the dollar is gold-backed again, enough to sell the world on a return to sound money, and enough to quietly devalue every existing dollar by 85 to 90% against the one asset that cannot be printed. This is not theory. This is the escape hatch the United States built for itself decades ago, and the rest of the world just realized it's about to be slammed open. So they're running, not walking, running into the only asset Washington cannot freeze, cannot sanction, and cannot inflate away. 3,000 tons in 3 years, the largest monetary gold rush since the dawn of the nuclear age, and the clock is ticking.